Good evening, all. Prior to our committee meeting tonight, I'd like to read our Pembroke Land Acknowledgement Statement. As we gather today, I would respectfully acknowledge on behalf of this committee, of council, and the community that the city of Pembroke resides on the unceded traditional territory of the Algonquin people. We thank the generations of people who have taken care of this land over thousands of years. It is with this statement that we honor and respect the Algonquins on whose land we reside. I'll now bring this Planning Advisory and Adjustment Committee of Monday, November the 25th to order, please. On the agenda next is approval of this agenda. Can we have a motion? Moved by Marcel, seconded by Ian, all in favor. Thank you, carried. Minutes of October the 28th, 24 having been distributed. Can I have approval of these minutes? Moved by Ed, seconded Marcel. Are there any errors or omissions to the minutes? Okay, all in favor then? Good, carried. Any disclosure of pecuniary interest or general nature thereof? Seeing none, we'll go on to new business. The first one is Z1124, 362 Miller Street, Esther Prinz, zoning bylaw and planning and our planning report. Owen, you have a report for us?
Thank you, Mr. Chair. The applicant, Esther Prinz of First Step Options, has submitted an application proposing the conversion of the existing single detached dwelling at 362 Miller Street to an office for a nonprofit organization. This nonprofit organization, First Step Options, is a pregnancy resource center providing free and confidential support for all issues related to pregnancy. Some of the issues listed on their website include unexpected pregnancy, prenatal, postnatal, perinatal loss, difficult feelings after abortion, and parenting-related circumstances. The property is currently zoned residential type 2, R2 by the zoning bylaw. This zoning permits the current use of single detached dwelling, but it does not permit any commercial uses, including that of office. The proposed local commercial -1, C1-1 zoning is required to permit the standard local commercial use of office, as well as to grant site-specific relief from standard parking requirements and minimum front yard setback zone provisions for the existing building. Regarding parking, the zoning bylaw requires 3 parking spaces per 100 square meters of gross floor area for an office. In the case of this application, 140 square meters of the existing building will be used as an office, bringing the required number of parking spaces to 4.22. So on the submitted site plan, 3 parking spaces are shown to be able to be accommodated in the existing driveway on the lot, meaning that relief of 1.22 parking spaces is required, which would be covered under the proposed site-specific zoning. Ample on-street parking is available in the form of angle parking on Miller Street, including a minimum of 5 angle parking spaces directly in front of the property. Further, due to the nature of the nonprofit organization's use, they expect low numbers in terms of vehicle traffic from their clients, as many of their clients walk to their location. As such, the proposed relief can be viewed as having negligible impact in the neighborhood and being in keeping with the intent of the zoning bylaw. Standard local commercial zone provisions are met and or exceeded for minimums for lot area, lot frontage, rear yard setback, interior side yard setback, where this abuts a residential zone, landscaped open space, and maximum building height. Only minimums for front yard setback for the existing building are not met. They are 13 feet, 7 feet short of the required 20. This is due to the age of the existing building, that this would likely be considered legal non-conforming, but as we already have a site-specific zoning proposed, it's being included as a housekeeping item of relief in this application. With that said, that being the single housekeeping item, this application can be viewed as being in keeping with the intent of the zoning bylaw. The proposed use of office for a nonprofit organization can be viewed as being highly compatible in the neighborhood. On the same block, 2 churches, St. John's Lutheran and Zion Evangelical United churches exist in institutional zones. One of these immediately abuts the property in question. Both of these churches abut residential type 2 zones. They also both make ample use of on-street parking on Miller Street and attract far higher volumes of visitors than First Step Options expects. Further, there is ample buffer distance of approximately 7 meters to the interior side yard property line and 19 meters to the rear yard property line that abuts R2 zones. So between the existing building and the nearest R2 zone, there is a significant buffer with vegetation in it. The property regarding the official plan is currently designated residential. Regarding this designation, the official plan states that certain compatible office uses may be permitted in a separate zoning category without amendment to this plan, provided adequate measures are taken to ensure that the residential character of the surrounding neighborhood is not adversely affected. No office use will be permitted that will be detrimental to the residential character of the neighborhood by virtue of obtrusive lights and or signs, parking requirements, traffic flows, or undue evidence of commercial activity. Due to the nature of the services and supports that First Step Options provides as a nonprofit organization, discretion and subtlety can be expected from their use of the property. No obtrusive lights or signs are proposed. Traffic flows are expected to be low, and no commercial activity occurs, meaning that this office use will not be detrimental to the residential character of the neighborhood. As First Step Options expects a substantial portion of their clients to access the location by means of walking, pertinently, the official plan addresses pedestrianization under 2 sections, stating that it is intended that the needs of pedestrians shall be accommodated at service levels appropriate to each of the types of roads as far as is practical, and that sidewalks shall be constructed to an appropriate municipal standard on one side of any local or collector road and 2 sides for an arterial road. The local roads in the neighborhood of the property far exceed this standard, with sidewalks available on both sides of the road, even though they are only local and collector roads. This makes for easy pedestrian access to the proposed location. As no addition to the existing building and no expansion of the existing building footprint is proposed, a building permit would only be required if significant works are proposed for the interior conversion of the existing building. Regarding the new provincial planning statement 2024, it states that planning authorities should support the achievement of complete communities by accommodating an appropriate range and mix of land uses, housing options, transportation options with multimodal access, employment, public service facilities, and other institutional uses, including schools and associated childcare facilities, places of worship, cemeteries, recreation, parks and open space, and other uses to meet long-term needs, improving social equity and overall quality of life for people of all ages, abilities, and incomes. As this organization provides free social services and supports the community as a nonprofit organization, and as the proposed location is located in an area with an appropriate range and mix of land uses, including residential, places of worship, and a school, this application can be viewed as very much in keeping with the provincial policy statement. Therefore, the planning department is recommending the approval of the zoning bylaw amendment for 362 Miller Street from a residential type 2 zone to a local commercial special exception 1 zone.
Thank you, Roland. Were there any submissions received regarding the application?
A single informational inquiry was received. We did not receive any official submissions.
Is there anyone representing the application that wishes to speak to the application?
So the applicant, Esther Prinz, as well as the director of First Step Options, are present.
Good evening.
Thank you.
My
Good
name is
evening.
Donna-Lee Loback, and I'm the Executive Director for First Step Options.
I'm Esther Prinz, and I sit on the Board of Directors. I am their treasurer.
Do you wish to comment?
Well, incidentally, this week we're celebrating 18 years of existing here in Pembroke and serving in our community. In January of this year, we reached a goal of serving 1,000 clients. So we've had significant impact. In 2023, we gave out over $35,000 worth of material supports to families, things like diapers, formula, clothing, food, that kind of thing. So we are having an impact, and moving into this new location is going to double our space, give us a lot more opportunity to provide more programs and services here. Yeah, thank you.
Sure, I'll just speak as treasurer.
Great.
So I've been treasurer for 5 years, and in 5 years, $300,000 has been freely donated. People want us in our own building. They want us to be able to expand to meet more needs. And it also helps us to work with the other community agencies within Pembroke. So we're very happy that we're financially stable enough to make this move. And we love Pembroke, and we love the people of Pembroke. And we know that we meet the needs that are here, needs that are not met in other places. And it's a privilege for us to do that. So we're looking forward to this.
Thank you very much. Any comments from our members of the committee? Ian?
Thank you much for coming today. My only question is with the parking, and Owen did go at that a bit. I mean, it's something that I think it's one of the things that I look at. So I'm always a little concerned when there's going to be a reduction in parking. So how confident are you that this parking situation will work out? I mean, you know the number of the flows of traffic that you get. So that's my only concern, is if you could maybe expand on the, I guess, the more physical nature of what Owen said. And so when he says that you're confident this will work, I'm wondering if you could just expand on that part.
Definitely confident it would work. We have 3 employees, 2 of which usually don't bring a vehicle. So it's usually just me. So one space would be taken up with that. And like we said, a lot of our clientele are walking or dropped off by a taxi. So I'm very confident that, yeah, we wouldn't need a lot of parking. Yeah. Mm-hmm.
Yes, Romeo.
First of all, I want to congratulate First Step Option for the work that you're doing.
Thank you.
I think that it gives me some fuzzy wuzzy. I was part of the organization group for the Columbus House way back,
Yes.
and we were dealing with, of course, young teenagers, dysfunctional homes, so on. And we started getting young ladies in family way, and I recall getting into an arrangement with the Renfrew County Children's Aid Society and so on. And then eventually I see this as something that's emanated from what was happening there in the Columbus House a long time ago.
Mm-hmm.
And I'm very, very pleased to see you come forward and to look for your own place and being successful financially and otherwise. And I know the house well. I ate many snacks in that kitchen. And one of my best friends was Tom Spooner. And of course, the city's librarian lived there for many, many, many years.
Wow.
And so it's a perfect location. I mean, I don't think the neighbors to the west of you or across the street will complain. But answering the question about parking, in the event there was ever a situation where you would require on a one-time event some parking, you've got 2 church parking lots right around the corner. And one thing that wasn't said in the parking or in your report, the planner's report, is that there's a nursery school down the hill from around the corner. So that's a plus as well.
Yeah.
So I'm very, very pleased to see the progress that your association has done and continue doing the excellent work.
Thank you.
Thank you, Romeo. Ed?
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Thank you for your kind words about the community. Too often we hear the negative about what we're not doing, but you're doing something very positive. And words of this type, help other people that may be interested in coming to our community know that the quality of the community is here, and it comes from citizens, not from politicians. So thank you for that. And I know that you'll be successful in your endeavors in the future. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you, Ed. Yes, Marcel.
Mr. Chair, I'll move that we accept the proposal as tabled.
Seconder, Ian. Any further comments? All in favor? you. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Okay, our next item is Z 1224 1127 Pembroke Street West. JP2G Consultants, official plan and planning report. Can we have the report, please? Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. So our applicant, Catherine Curry of JP2G Consultants, Inc., on behalf of the property owners, has submitted an official plan and zoning bylaw amendments application proposing the conversion of the existing building at 1127 Pembroke Street West, previously a convent, to a hotel. So just for some background information, the property was originally designated and zoned institutionally by the official plan 2016 and zoning bylaw 2020-05. This allowed for its long-time use as a convent by the previous owners, who were the Sisters of St. Joseph. The current owners purchased the property in 2020. Their first intent was to convert the existing building into a retirement home dwelling, which was also a permitted use under that then existing institutional designation and zoning. They then applied and were approved for a minor variance to reduce the minimum dwelling unit area requirement, again for a retirement home dwelling. A building permit was then issued for the conversion. This original intent changed, with the owners then wishing to convert the existing building to an apartment dwelling. So official plan and zoning bylaw amendments were then applied for and approved to the current residential designations and zoning. A site plan agreement was approved and the building permit was modified to accommodate this. The property owner's intent has now changed again as they wish to convert the existing building to a hotel. The property is currently zoned residential type 4, special exception 12, as well as the same zoning with a flood fringe marker by the zoning bylaw, which was amended by bylaw 2022-05. The R412 zoning explicitly permits an apartment building containing a maximum of 65 dwelling units only, with reduced dwelling unit area and reduced parking requirements, down to 1 parking space per dwelling unit for a total of 65 parking spaces. Standard flood fringe provisions apply to the portion of the property that has the flood fringe marker. However, the existing building is far removed from this portion of the property. And further, a portion of the property that immediately abuts the Ottawa River is zoned floodplain. However, this portion of the property is not subject of this application tonight and will remain zoned floodplain. The proposed highway commercial special exception 28 and the same zoning with a flood fringe marker are required to allow for the standard highway commercial permitted use of hotel, as well as to provide site-specific relief for the existing building height and the height of a proposed staircase addition, both of which exceed the standard highway commercial maximum building height requirement of 10.67 meters. The maximum building height that is proposed is 12.8 meters. Standard flood fringe provisions will apply again to the portion of the property that has said markers. But again, the building and the proposed use is far removed from this portion of the property. All other standard highway commercial zone provisions are met and exceeded, including minimums for lot area, lot frontage, front yard setback, rear yard setback, interior side yard setback to the west, interior side yard setback to the east, and minimum landscaped open space. By exceeding all of the above applicable zoning provisions, the application is strongly in keeping with the intent of the zoning bylaw. Regarding parking, all applicable requirements of the zoning bylaw, including number of spaces, size of spaces, access driveways, and landscaping and buffer strips, are shown to be met on the submitted site plan. For a hotel, the zoning bylaw requires 1 space per guest room, in addition to any parking spaces for ancillary uses. As the proposed hotel would have 86 guest rooms with no ancillary uses, this puts the requirement at 86 parking spaces, and these are shown on the submitted site plan. So this again puts the application as being strongly in keeping with the intent of the zoning bylaw. The proposed C228 zoning is highly compatible with the surrounding area. Pembroke Street West is lined with a diverse mixture of commercial and residential uses and densities, whether these are apartment buildings, a shopping center, or highway commercial businesses such as large format retail stores and eating establishments. These uses are all highly supportive of each other via the high traffic nature and volumes of Pembroke Street West. Smaller densities such as local commercial offices and convenience stores, as well as R2 properties, coexist on the street without any issue. So the proposed zoning and use of a hotel will be highly compatible with and support the existing diverse mixture of zoning in the area. Regarding the official plan, the property is currently designated residential and flood fringe residential. Regarding the residential designation, the official plan states that this classification of land means the predominant use of land in the areas shall be all types of residential dwellings, with the addition that uses that support the proper functioning of a residential area are to be permitted, including schools, places of worship, parks, senior citizens housing, local commercial uses, home-based businesses, bed and breakfasts. There is the option for these to be included without amendment to the plan. But as the proposed use of hotel and the proposed C2 zoning are not residential, nor are they residential supporting, nor local commercial, nor bed and breakfast, an official plan amendment is required. The flood fringe requirements will apply to the portion of the property that is currently designated flood fringe residential. But again, the current building is not within this portion of the land. And similar to what I mentioned about the zoning bylaw, there is a portion that immediately abuts the Ottawa River that is designated as hazard land. This will not change. It is not subject of this application and will remain designated hazard land. The proposed highway commercial and flood fringe highway commercial designations would support the proposed zoning and use as a hotel. Regarding the definition of the designation, the official plan states that the highway commercial classification of land means that the predominant use of land in the area so designated shall be for retail and business establishments that are typically dependent on high volumes of traffic or that are heavily transportation oriented. This definition exactly fits the proposed use of hotel, hotels being business establishments that depend on high volumes of traffic and are heavily transportation oriented, and the property being located on the city's only arterial road, which has high traffic counts. So that directly fits this definition. Regarding location, the official plan states that new highway commercial uses shall be located on an arterial or collector road. As the property is located on Pembroke Street West, which is designated as an arterial road by the official plan, this direction is absolutely met. The location for the proposed hotel will provide for excellent vehicular transportation within the city, both eastwards and westwards, via the arterial of Pembroke Street, as well as to other areas of the city via Pembroke Street's connections to collector roads. Regarding municipal services, the official plan requires that all development shall be adequately serviced with municipal water and sewer services. And in this case, full water, sanitary, and storm sewer servicing exists to the property. And through both the site plan approval process that has already commenced and the building permit process, verification of adequate servicing capacity has been completed with the operations department. Regarding site plan control, the official plan states that site plan control shall apply to all development within the highway commercial area. This directive is absolutely met as the site plan control process has already been executed for the property with the current owners. And should the proposed change of use proceed, amendment to the existing site plan agreement would be required. Regarding the new provincial planning statement 2024 and supporting a modern economy, it states that planning authorities shall promote economic development and competitiveness by providing for an appropriate mix and range of employment, institutional and broader mixed uses to meet long-term needs, and by providing opportunities for a diversified economic base, including maintaining a range and choice of suitable sites for employment uses, which support a wide range of economic activities and ancillary uses, and take into account the needs of existing and future businesses. The proposed use of hotel will add this use to an area of the city that lacks hotel options, which will support other highway commercial businesses clustered around the nearby West End Mall. Of further note, the proposed hotel will be a suite-style hotel with the possibility of staying for longer terms at reduced rates, providing the only option for this style of accommodation within the city of Pembroke. This will promote economic development and competition, and as such is directly in keeping with this section of the provincial policy statement. The provincial policy statement under a different section states that land use patterns within settlement areas shall be based on densities and a mix of land uses which efficiently use land and resources, optimize existing and planned infrastructure and public service facilities, support active transportation, and are transit supportive as appropriate. As the proposed use will redevelop an existing currently vacant building on a large parcel of land and is already serviced with full municipal servicing, it will make use of existing transit infrastructure in the form of the arterial road of Pembroke Street West and is within walking and or cycling distance to the Algonquin Trail, Riverside Park, and commercial amenities of the West End. This application can be viewed as highly in keeping with this directive of the provincial policy statement. The provincial policy statement mirrors the official plan in that it directs that planning for sewage and water services shall accommodate forecasted growth in a timely manner, promoting the efficient use and optimization of existing servicing. As the proposed redevelopment is fully serviced, again, with existing municipal water, sewage, and stormwater services, this application is in keeping with that direction of the provincial policy statement. And so the planning department is recommending the approval of the official plan and zoning bylaw amendments for 1127 Pembroke Street West from residential and flood fringe residential to highway commercial and flood fringe highway commercial official plan designations, and from residential type 4, 12 and residential type 4, 12 flood fringe zones to highway commercial 28 and highway commercial 28 flood fringe zones. As the application is in keeping with the intent of the zoning bylaw, is in line with the official plan, as well as the provincial policy statement.
Thank you, Owen. Were any submissions received regarding the application, Owen?
We did receive 4 inquiries. One of those parties that did make an inquiry is here tonight. We did not receive any official submissions at this point.
Who is there someone here representing the application, and would they like to come forward and talk to us about it, please? Yes.
Thank you. Good evening, Mr. Chair and members of the committee. My name is Anthony Homick, and I am the manager of the planning team at JP2G Consultants. As Owen mentioned, I'm joined by my colleague, Catherine Curry, and I'm joined by my friend Amir here, who is a representative of the owner of the property. So we've been retained by the owners of the property, the Sunray Group, who are in the middle of repurposing the building. And you've heard Owen has done an extensive overview of the application and the history of the property. So I'm going to try to keep my statements and my commentary relatively brief. But the applications before you are for official plan and zoning bylaw amendments, which would change the designation of the property from residential to highway commercial. And it would change the zoning from residential to highway commercial as well to facilitate the reuse and the repurposing of the existing building as a hotel. As you're aware, the property was already redesignated and rezoned from institutional to residential to convert the building from what was proposed as an apartment. As you'll hear in a few moments, the apartment conversion is no longer economically feasible, and our client has decided to pursue the hotel use instead. As planners, it's our job to evaluate the application against the existing policy framework, including the brand new 2024 provincial planning statement and the City of Pembroke official plan. So the provincial planning statement, as you heard from Owen, provides policy direction on matters of provincial interest related to land use planning and development. As a key part of Ontario's policy-led system, the provincial planning statement sets the policy foundation for the regulating and development of land and land use province-wide, helping achieve the provincial goal of meeting the needs of fast-growing province while enhancing the quality of life for all Ontarians. One of the key tenets of the PPS is the efficient use of land and resources. And while many of the policies in the PPS are explicitly aimed at new development, The repurposing of an existing building certainly constitutes an efficient use of resources and is certainly bull marks for sustainability for converting an existing building instead of tearing it down and building a new building. The PPS also widely promotes economic development and prosperity, which you've heard from Owen as well. The new hotel use will provide economic benefit to the city of Pembroke and will provide that new hotel option in the west end of the city. From an official plan perspective, the lands are designated, lands that are designated highway commercial, as you heard from Owen, are intended to be automobile-oriented, commercial district that provides valuable services to the tourist industry as well. And indeed, it's worth pointing out that the vast majority of properties along Pembroke Street West, really from the downtown core all the way out to the west end of the city, are designated highway commercial, as Owen mentioned, with a variety of different uses and different densities. So the redesignation that we're proposing would be consistent with the character and other uses all along Pembroke Street West. With respect to zoning, the proposed hotel use would meet all of the existing performance standards in the zoning bylaw, as you heard from Owen, with the exception of height. And the height is recognizing the existing building, which could be considered legal nonconforming. But there's also a very small stairwell addition being proposed, where there is a height exception being sought from 35 feet to 42 feet. An updated site plan has been prepared that illustrates that the new hotel use can meet all of the required parking under the zoning bylaw. I'd like to also point out that we have worked with staff to minimize the amount minimize the removal of as many large mature trees as possible. You may have driven by the site recently and seen that front hedge has come down. However, there are still a number of large mature trees on the site that are proposed to remain. And we've worked with staff to indicate that on our site plan that will be resubmitted. As Owen mentioned, there's a site plan amendment will be required as well. So sort of to wrap up, the proposed applications for official plan amendment and zoning bylaw amendment have been reviewed against the policies contained in the PPS, the City of Pembroke official plan, and the standards in the City of Pembroke zoning bylaw. The official plan and zoning bylaw amendments will facilitate the repurposing of an existing vacant building on an arterial road that's located in close proximity to many amenities, including retail and food service establishments. As Owen also mentioned, the building is connected already to existing sewer, water, and storm infrastructure. And in my professional opinion, the official plan and zoning bylaw amendments represent good planning and should be approved. And I'm going to just pass it over to Amir, who's going to provide a little bit of context on the business side of things.
Thank you. Mr. Chair, Member of Council and Planning Department and our planning group here, thank you very much for having me here tonight. We thought it was important for me to come to this meeting to make sure that we are, first of all, part of the community. We don't go into any community by just doing a business and exiting. Just wanted to tell you a little bit about Sunray Group and what we are all about, and a little bit the history of this site and the business aspect of things, because we're all here together because we want to make this work for the community, for our purpose, for everyone. So Sunray Group, we are all over Ontario, and recently we expanded out west. We also have a few properties in St. John's out east, and so we're expanding across Canada. We have over 70 hotels and 8 retirement homes. That was one of the purposes of this initial purchase in the town of Pembroke, and we also do a lot of real estate development as part of our business. But as part of the strategy of the company, this is Mr. Gupta's company, Mr. Ray Gupta. His strategy is whatever community he goes to, he says we have to be part of community, and oftentimes we end up buying multiple businesses wherever we go. So this is not our first and only purchase. It's our first purchase, but it's not our only purchase. And we're thinking about expanding in this town. It's a great town to be in. With the particular site that we are in, we hit some problems. And when we started the construction, it was at the beginning of the pandemic. So this project is sort of the victim of the COVID era, just like many other businesses went through that. Luckily, with the cash flow that the company has, we were able to maintain this site and continue the work. Just to put numbers in perspective, our construction budget nearly doubled of what was originally thought to be. There's a combination of reasons for that. Part of it was the pandemic, lack of supply, lack of trades, and ultimately it was just lots of issues with the existing building that were not anticipated. So I believe we are 3 years into the construction now, maybe chief building official would know better how many years we were in there. Lots of problems came about. And when we started this project, the intention was to have a rental building. But when you do the numbers, we started having problems that this is no longer a viable option with only 65 units in this large space. And it just so happened that I was here about a year ago, meeting with few real estate agents in town to just gauge where we are at and what can we do to save this project, because this was supposed to be the phase one of this project. We're supposed to turn this into a sort of a cash flow positive business, so then we can develop the rest of the site. In the front, we were planning on certain development. At the back, we've already done the hydrogeological reports. We've done a lot of work, spent a lot of money on this site for the future development and adding more units to the community here. So that was our intention. However, when we looked around and we looked at the numbers, we sort of started recognizing that it may not be a viable option with just a rental building. And we decided to just, again, talking to the agents here, they told me about the army base here nearby, that they're always looking for a place to stay. But he said, I can rent them for maybe 3 months, 6 months. And I said, how can we run a rental building? We cannot have 3 to 6 months. So going back, talking to Mr. Gupta, and he had an idea, being a hotel business, he reached out to a few contacts, and Candlewood Suite was very interested in coming to town. And to put the correct word, I know that in Owen's great presentation, he was talking about hotel, but it's really extended stay hotel. That's what we like to call it, because these are really the same apartment suites. It's just that you're able to rent them on a short term. But if somebody wants to stay long term, more than welcome to stay there. The rate will be obviously cheaper if someone stays longer. The longer you stay, the lower the rate would be, which makes it feasible if someone wants to stay a year, 6 months, 3 months, or a week, you have a place to stay. So we did the numbers, and we realized that maybe this is one way we can salvage this project and bring it back to life. And instead of an empty building in the middle of 13 acres land, have a building that's being used by community or the nearby communities, and have a place to stay, and allow us to continue developing the rest of the site. And that really is why I'm here, for you to understand that this is where we come from. It's not that the initial intention was there. We did all the work. We spent a lot of time and resources to convert it to a residential. But when the budget goes out and things change and the economy changes, you have to adapt, and and we're not in the business of selling and moving on. We don't want to do that. We want to work with what we have, but it has to be business-wise, make sense, so that we can continue reinvesting in the community. So that's really in a nutshell, like what happened with that project. And thank you again for the time.
Thank you. Questions? Ian?
Quite a few of them. I'm going to work a little backwards, I think. So what would be the rate for a longer stay in this hotel?
In the hotel?
Yeah.
So we're looking at it. So I looked at it today, I think. So the original design, we haven't changed it a lot. We actually had 65 units originally. We only took out the 2-bedroom units. Out of the 65, we knocked out 2 units on the ground level. And I'll come back to answer your question. Just want to set the stage of what we have over there. So we had 2 bedrooms on the main level that we took them out just to create a lobby. So we went up to 63 units. And the new design asked for 86 units. So these are some of the 2 bedrooms that we converted into smaller units. A lot of the units are remaining the same. 24 units actually are finished, and we're not touching them. I walked the site today. So as far as the rentals, I don't have the numbers exactly in my head, and I want to be very careful here how to state it. But when we did the numbers, if I understand correctly, when you go longer term, let's say you want to stay for a year, the rent almost matches what you would get if you were to go to the market and sign a 1-year lease with someone. It's always like that with extended stay. And the largest unit that we have right now, I believe, is a 1-bedroom king size that we have. Now, these are furnished units, so we need to compare them to furnished units products, not necessarily just plain empty apartment buildings, which again helps with a lot of people when I'm moving for 6 months and move out. They come with the luggage, they leave with the luggage. As far as the number goes, if the longer they stay, the lower the rate would be, and it would slowly get very close to what it would be a regular rental in the.
When you say slowly gets very close, you mean from being more expensive?
Longer. As it gets longer, it gets closer to what the rental market is.
But it would still be more expensive than what the rental market is.
They are furnished units. So
Okay,
it's a bit different when you get getting closer to a furnished unit. If we have cases where someone is willing to stay longer, I mean, we have to make that business decision at that point. If we have high vacancy rate, maybe we'll take some furniture out and rent it at a different rate.
Okay.
But those are business decisions we'll make down the road.
Okay, so already we're starting at a point where these are going to be more expensive than what a typical residential unit would be in the city of Pembroke. How big are the units?
So again, we haven't changed a lot of them. I believe that all of them are remaining the same, except the 2 bedrooms are being divided into 1 bedroom. The average size, you have to forgive me, I did not read the numbers, but I can definitely look it up for you. But I do believe they were on average size 700 square feet, if I remember correctly.
Okay, and what is our minimum square footage in the city of Pembroke for a rental unit?
If I may, we are proposing a hotel. We're not talking apartment standards.
Well, I'm talking about apartments right now.
Understood,
That's where I'm going with
but the proposal is for a hotel, so that's we're evaluating, and we're talking about average suite sizes for a hotel use.
Well, right now I'm the one asking questions.
Through you, Mr. Chair, for minimum dwelling units in an R4 zone, for a bachelor dwelling unit, 400 square feet. For a 1 bedroom, 600 square feet. For a 2 bedroom, 700 square feet. 3 bedrooms, 900 square feet. And beyond that, it gets into a formula.
Okay. Okay, so in theory, if you were looking for more numbers, you could have, in theory, had bachelor and single and double apartments, which could have increased the numbers from the number of apartment units you were originally considering, correct?
So, correct. However, there's still cost to convert this building. Already, if you do this conversion, it's going to cost us another $2 million just to bring it up to certain standards. The problem that we have is those numbers that you just mentioned there. This was the main beginning issue with this building. The apartments were too large, and even now today, I think our bachelor apartments are larger than those are the standards for Pembroke, correct, Owen? So in this building, they're definitely larger than those sizes. So the problem is the nature of this building has caused a lot of headache for us. How to work with it. Even now, to convert it to this extended stay hotel, we could only convert some of the 2 bedrooms, because if you touch the other bedrooms, it just like you're just redesigning. We may as well build a brand new building.
In terms of your business outlook, what's your expected occupancy for this building?
So just like any other hotel, we look at 65 to 70% occupancy, but so that's how we did our numbers to make sure that again it's viable, so we don't spend a lot more money and then again just being back in square one. But I expect, based on what the realtors told me about the demand for the short term that's in this market, and what our own trades faced, because that was another issue we had with the building. We couldn't have enough trades, so we had to bring trades. Our contractors came from out of town. The general contractor hired people from out of town. They couldn't get enough in here. They had to house them here. Then they couldn't. It was very difficult to find a place for them to stay. So we anticipate maybe we'll be a little bit higher, but we have to do our numbers based on average hotel stay, which is 60 to 70% occupancy.
Okay, because my tourism department tells me that in Pembroke it's 30 to 40%.
So that's for regular hotel. This is an extended stay hotel. It's a different concept. So we do have a little kitchenette. That's a little different than just a regular hotel.
Okay, so I guess my problem with this is right now we have a shortage of apartments in Pembroke. We have a shortage of housing options in Pembroke. We have a provincial government looking for more housing options. And I see this as actually being antithesis to what we are looking for and what we need. So when I look through the provincial planning statement of 2024, the word hotel or motel isn't listed once, but there's a lot of talk about trying to increase residential units. And one thing that struck me in particular when looking at this particular one in 2.2 is all types of residential intensification, including the development and redevelopment of underutilized commercial and institutional sites. So we're going potentially backwards from an apartment building that could quite conceivably be fully rented out to a building that your own numbers are saying 60 to 70% expected occupancy. So not only are we not helping our own local housing and apartment numbers, we're really actually backpedaling on that kind of issue. So I mean, I respect greatly our planner and their report, but when I look at the report, when we're trying to justify changing this to commercial, we're really using some, like, we're grabbing from the provincial policy statement some very vague, like when we're talking about, you know, the provincial policy statement says, you know, there should be sewer and water. Well, that doesn't speak to this specific application at all. I mean, all of Pembroke is almost all on sewer and water. So I mean, that's not exactly a nice, strong provincial policy statement for you to hang your hat on in terms of this application. But the provincial policy statement does talk a lot about housing. It talks about a lot of trying to increase numbers of housing units, and we need those locally. We have some of the most expensive apartment prices in all of Ontario. I'm not an expert on it. I believe it is likely somewhat related to our college population, to our military population. You know, obviously, when somebody sits in an apartment for 5 years, that kind of keeps the rent at bay for 5 years. But when we have sort of military and college kids every 2-3 years leaving an apartment, that lets the landlord jump the price to market levels. So I got to tell you, I'm not convinced this is something that Pembroke needs. When we talk about the location being so good for a hotel, I can just as easy tell you that, you know, given our senior population, the fact that this thing is a block away from a drugstore, the fact that there's a grocery store and Hart that has all your household essentials across the way. I mean, I could just as easily say that, you know, this would be great for low income and seniors housings for the exact same reasons. So I feel that I can hang my hat on our current housing crisis and the fact that, frankly, your initial plan and what this was zoned for would be much better for the residents of the city of Pembroke. And I mean, when I talk to my tourism officials, I'm not sure why we need or want another hotel. And I get that this is a long stay hotel. That's certainly different than what we have, but I'm just not seeing it. So right now, I would be opposed. I would be opposed to this application.
Romeo, and then you. Okay.
I guess, first of all, through you, Mr. Chairman, a question. Did you do any studies regarding vacancy rates in this town?
I haven't done that. I'm not, because with the 65 units, we know based on the conversation with the realtors that are experts in this town, they had mentioned to us that they can fill that apartment, no problem. The issue was the level of income that was generating. So that's where we came into. I don't think that vacancy based on demand anywhere in Ontario, there's an issue. But if I may comment on councillors' comments, can I comment on those? Just on the business portion, I'll let our expert planner here to talk about the policies. So oftentimes we look at something zoomed in. Everything you said is absolutely correct when you zoom in on this one property. For us, we have to zoom out a little bit and look at it a little differently, because if I cannot make this property viable, just like many other properties that I'm aware of, we are all over Ontario. At some point, if we cannot make it work, we just got to put in the market for sale, which is something we hardly ever do. We never sell properties because we will make them work. I did not bring with me today, but there was, when we purchased this property, we went as far as doing all of our reports to see what else we can add as a residential unit to this property. And we thought, as I said, we like to have multiple businesses in the community because it gives us economies of scale and it allows us to have one manager run the properties, and the more the merrier for us and for the town. So our intention has always been to add extra residential units to this site. But I think the point that's missed in here is that then from business point of view, again, I'll let the policy speak for itself. But what happens is, the path that we're going down is that we're sitting at the office thinking, what do we do with this property? Just put it up for sale and it's vacant for another 2 years until somebody buys it and just flip it and move on from it because it doesn't make sense. Somebody else figures something out. Or what can we do to get this piece of property that's caused so much headache for ours anyways, and maybe potentially for the city, to get it to a point where it can start functioning. So then we can focus on the remaining of the land. That was a discussion we had at the office of JP2G today, that we need to start working on the rest of it and be able to, and again, I quickly summarize here that we found a great product that we can build 5-6-story buildings. These are 150, 160 units. I'm doing it in Bracebridge, in Orangeville, in Wasaga, 3 of them, and in Toronto, I have 2 of them. And these units what they do is that when you just do the math on the 150 units, that could be half the size of the buildings that we have over there. And it cost me about $30 million to build it. And the money that generates is viable only because we can use the government funding that everybody else is using today. It's called CMHC funding. Okay, it's called MLI Select Program or ACPL, whichever you use. So the point for us is to look at if this doesn't make sense right now, we cannot even go any further to do anything else. In order for us to continue developing these 13 acres into what we thought initially it could be, we need this for this to work. So this is a long-term plan, hand in hand with the city of Pembroke, to say, help us make this viable. We were going the direction of, we spent a fortune trying to make this a residential unit. Along the way, everything changed. It was supposed to be 5 million renovation, went to 11 millions already, plus another 2 million right now. The numbers completely changed. It's a different beast right now. So what we have to do, we have to make this functioning, so then I can go back and spend money and generate more properties. At the back, we have a little bit high water table, so it's a different product, maybe houses or townhomes or bungalows, something like that. In the front, we have an option to generate maybe 1 or 2 buildings that can be fully residential, purpose-built rental units. Sorry for that.
Are you finished?
No.
No, okay, Romeo? Yeah.
You want to respond? Yeah, okay.
So exploring that plan a little bit, is that part of this current application?
It's not part of this current application.
So you would have to come back to us with so I guess what I'm saying is, why wouldn't your current application be asking, look, if we're serious about building these other buildings on the property, why aren't you asking for a zoning right now that would let you do those other buildings? When you say that, that's our long-term plan, how long are we talking about? Like, we're in need of rental units today. Are we talking 2 years? Are we talking 5 years? Are we talking 15 years when we might not care what the current situation is? So I guess what I'm saying is, I like you sitting there telling me that you have an overall plan. I want to know where this overall plan is, because it's certainly not in front of us.
So what, to answer your question, so I actually didn't bring the drawings with me, but I shared with our planner just to understand, because we're planning the next phase. We did do the drawings. We hired an architect. I've done the hydrogeological report. I've done the geotechnical report. I've done environmental assessment. We've done all of that on that site, not for the existing building. We did it for the expansion of the land to have additional units built there. At the back, we proposed townhomes. In the front, it was stacked townhomes. But with the new products from federal government and the CMHC program, the purpose-built rental is a popular product, and we have done it successfully. Application-wise, we started construction on the first one in 2025. We're excited about it. So it allows for this product to come to markets such as Pembroke and Wasaga and Orangeville and Bracebridge. So we're doing that. It is possible. We had done some work on this land before, but all the problems that came up, it held us back. It's like, if at some point we have to stop and just walk away from this project, which is a bad decision for us, we do not want to do that. So that's where we stopped. And then we went back to the drawing board, and through conversations and calling people, we found the solution that, okay, we can make this viable, and let's go back to the drawing board again for the products that we've already done the reports for it for the rest of the site.
So back to my specific question, why isn't this application asking specifically for a highway commercial designation or a residential designation that allows for the commercial part? Why isn't this application setting up your plan as opposed to stopping at commercial?
So actually, I got advice by a planner today, and he'll speak to that. But part of it was time is money. We are losing a lot of interest on that property every single day that sits vacant. And it's been the biggest portion of that cost, by the way. So one of the things was, we did not think about that when we came in to get changes zoning to the extended stay hotel. However, today our planner advised me that if that's our plan, we should have had the section. I said, I don't want to delay. I want to make sure that I can continue the work. The guys on site today, they're just painting. They cannot do any work because they have to have a permit to start the work. And we cannot continue the work until we get this, which means we're losing a lot of money over there. That's what we didn't think about it that way. But from the get-go, when we started it, the conversion that happened was because we wanted to expand the rest of the site into more residential and rental portfolio. So, but I let the, sorry, planner explain.
No, thank you. And through you, Mr. Chair, I think there's I took a number of notes on the points that Councillor Keel made, and a number of your points, Councillor Keel, are very well taken. The provincial goals with respect to building housing are very important goals. I live in the city of Pembroke, so I certainly support the goals, and I know that we need more rental housing in Pembroke, 100%. There's just a couple of points that I did want to make in response to your comments, and maybe I'll just start with the one that we're talking about right now. There's two ways we could approach this. We could certainly, with the stroke of a pen, we could draw new lines on the plan that we've applied for. It was simpler when our clients came to us and said, we want to go forward with a hotel. It was simpler to take what's right now designated and zoned as residential and flip that to highway commercial. However, we could carve out where as we talked about, sort of the rear of the site or the north of the site, as you get to the top of the slope, it drops down. Councillor Keel, you mentioned the word underutilized. Certainly that's probably the most important word when we talk about this site. There is a lot of room on this site to build other, to provide for other housing typologies on the property. And so we could carve it out, but I think also it would be probably a better idea to go back to the drawing board with the client and do some better or more contemporary drawings. I know that there have been some drawings that look at how we could develop the entirety of the site, but they're a few years old now, so we could do another exercise. And I think by doing that, in terms of every time JP2G is here working with the city and working with city staff are always committed to processing these applications very quickly. So it wouldn't take much for us to come back here with another zoning bylaw amendment for some rental apartments, if that happens to be the case. I did want to touch on a couple of your other points. I just want to make it very clear that we're not removing apartments, right? Where there's a zoning in place for the apartments, but right now it's a vacant building. And so we're not removing apartments. We're proposing to fill this vacant building with a hotel use. And I think one of the last points that I wrote down, Councillor Keel, was the comment made about military or college students. I think what a use like an extended stay hotel will do is will fill that gap. And I think you'll see some of those military and college students going to an extended stay, and then some of that rental units that you're talking about will stay on the longer term rental market. So those are just some of the comments I wanted to make. But the main one is that this is a work in progress. This building, the conversion of an existing building, which is challenging at the best of times to take an old building like this that was designed for something very different and convert it into something contemporary that can be used in 2024 is quite a challenge. So there's a lot of opportunity on this site, and I think you'll see that there is more coming on this site eventually. So
I guess, I guess my concern.
I'm sorry, were you
I haven't
next?
even started my comment.
I know, but I thought it was next. Sorry.
Oh, no, he had a motion to read, so, and then Marcel, I'll have you.
I guess my comment is slipping along the line of Councillor Keel's in a way. First of all, I want to thank you as a developer that you've decided to come to Pembroke and to do some development in here. And you're being well served by your consultant, as we have been well served by our planning department for the extensive and informative report that we've received. I guess one line, I feel I've been sandbagged. Okay, let that sink in. I was here in 2020 when you came before for the application. Okay, so was the chair. And we were ecstatic, this advisory committee, that we were going to get more affordable housing. And I'm sure when it went to the planning committee of council, they too were ecstatic, as well as council, because they passed it. Then you come back a year later, in front of the same committee for changes. Okay? You went from a retirement home, you went to a retirement home dwelling. That was the intent. And it was going to be affordable. I looked at the studio apartments, the one bedroom apartments, and I said, that was going to be great for this town. It was going to be great for this town. Now, first of all, I want to say, don't take these comments personally, okay? I mean, the personal thing is me. I feel I've been kind of sandbagged because I thought we were getting something which has been preached by Queen's Park. And this is where we have problems, okay? Queen's Park sends out mixed messages. They send out messages about affordable housing. You got to do this, you got to do that. And council wrap their brains and staff work in order to come up with, try to get affordable housing. The planning department, and of course, Queen's Park, they smooth out the Planning Act. And of course, they've changed it. And they've got rid of a lot of ribbons that you had to go through. Matter of fact, we were here a while back faced with a situation where we had to approve in an R1 single family zone what would end up being 4 units. I mean, talk about changing things in midstream. And by the way, the units are going up right now, if you remember the one I was talking about. So, you know, the Planning Act has been smoothed out. But on the other hand, it's these mixed messages that we're getting. And so we get a little bit concerned about that. I can tell you that you've ticked off all the boxes. I spent 10 years as a part-time adjudicator in the Assessment Review Board throughout this province. And I look at everything that was in the planning report, I ticked them off. It's a slam dunk. If you had to go to the local planning appeal tribunal, in my opinion, you wouldn't lose. Okay? But it's the disappointment, I think, that some of us have. We don't need more hotel rooms. We need more affordable housing. I have a friend who sold his house and stayed in a local hotel, okay, before he could move into his apartment. There were 3 units rented in that hotel, and it's a big one. Now, on the weekend, they were sold out because of the Silver Stick. That's one of the few weekends where things get sold out. But I want to reiterate, we don't need more rooms. We need affordable housing. And I guess I'm making a statement here personally, because, you know, you mentioned about more room to build. Don't forget, a lot of that property between the building and the Ottawa River is fringe floodplain. So I can see you, I hope I'm wrong, I can see you coming back here to get some concessions. And you know, you got some concessions the first time you were here. You got some concessions the second time you were here. I don't know if you would have gotten those concessions if you would have come with this application on the outset. So I'm just sharing my feelings that I'm glad you're here. I'm glad you're spending money here. And it's just that personally, I feel I've been sandbagged here with this particular application at this particular time.
Mr. Vice Chair, may I comment?
Sure, surely.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. So I want to clarify again, we kept talking about hotel. I wanted to clarify it was extended stay hotel. These are different, yes, they're both hotels, but different products. But I also want to comment on Mr. Vice Chair's comments. I hope that we can clarify that and have a better image in your mind, because that certainly was not our intention. We would not have gone ahead and almost finished the building and have to tear down the whole main floor and a bunch of other things. The entire alarm system has to change. Nobody spends money doing those things if the intention is different. And I know a lot of shady people in this business that they do things different. That was not our intention. Our intention genuinely was to do this, and things went not the right way. Second note is I heard tonight multiple times about affordable housing. I want to clarify this. Affordable housing, as is defined by the provincial government, is certain percentage. Areas are different. Generally, it's about 80% of the certain number of average income of the neighborhood. And by no means this building, had it gone to be a rental building, would have been an affordable rental building. You only do affordable rental building when you use government programs where you have to provide 10% of your total number of units under the affordable definition, which is 80% of the average rental of the area and has to be tied into the income. There are other programs which hopefully we can use for the buildings in the front if we were to be allowed to continue, that when we use those government programs, which is the only way we can put those buildings there, that again makes sense business-wise, and is under the scrutiny and watch of the government that we build those will have to provide, as you said, affordable units. The rest of the units, again, there will be market rents. So this is very important that this building was going to be, it's almost a Gupta's money and there's some financing on it. However, it will not be an affordable rental building in the past. It would have been just whatever market rent is in the market today. So, but are we going to bring some affordable units? 100%, because that's what the government program allows us to do. So if you're allowed to go, and I just found the drawings, and I'm not sure, I'll ask a technician to help to tell me if I can show it to you. The drawings that we did way back in early 2020, I think even before that. And our application was in, Mr. Vice Chair, I think we got approval in 2020, or we bought the land or got approval because we started construction in 2021, I believe, October 2021. So, so we fast forwarding now 3 years later, we are facing with this problem, all these issues that now we found the solution, and this is the solution to solve it, to allow us to go and provide the additional units that the town councils, everybody wants. And for us, it works because government supports us to put those units into the community. I'll let Anthony. Sorry.
No, I think you got everything on that
Sorry.
point there, and I didn't have anything else to add to the Vice Chair's comments there.
Yes, Marcel?
Thank you, Mr. Chair.
Mhm.
Sorry, Romeo.
No.
Didn't mean to cut you off. I think very quickly, Mr. Chair, what I want to point out is that this application, and I don't go back like some of the other members here, but I read the application as saying that they want a suite style hotel. We have no suite style hotel in Pembroke. I just recently met a doctor who was coming into Pembroke for 4 months and had no place to stay. You cannot rent an apartment in Pembroke for 4 months. There is a suite style hotel in Petawawa. Unfortunately, no room, couldn't get in. There is a demand for the suite style. We have doctors coming in, we have professionals coming in, we have nurses coming in. They're looking for short-term. The doctor who's there, by the way, is on our street, and she will be there for 3 to 4 months. Once her term at the hospital is done, her and her husband make the decision to move to Pembroke. At that time, they will find a house, whatever. But we do not have any place where we can go in and have a short-term stay. And I can speak from experience too. I was in Florida for 5 years. I came home in December for a month to spend with the family. There is no short-term accommodation. I stayed at the Grey Gables for that month. I did that for 5 years. There is no short-term accommodation available in Pembroke at all, none whatsoever. Short-term can be 1 week, can be 3 months, can be 2 months. In my case, it was 1 month. What do? Your house burns, where do you go? A motel is great, but you can't feed yourself in a motel. You still have to go out to restaurants. It's hard. So I don't see why we're going off on tangents here to do with the province and the plans. And I can appreciate what I'm hearing from both Romeo and Councillor Keel, but I see this proposal as a fair proposal coming into the planning committee to look at this proposal, not what we can see down the road or what we saw in the past, but what we see today and what we need today. And I know for a fact that we need a suite style hotel in Pembroke. We have none. Thank you, Mr. Chair.
Any further comments? Ed?
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Amir, do you know me? Have we ever met? Have we ever met? Do you know me? I don't know you either, sir. But I have to say, I respect you for coming here to take the heat. And, you could have sent somebody else. You could have said, well, why would I bother? They're not going to listen to me anyway. Perhaps they'll change it. Perhaps we'll just pack up our bags and leave. I don't want to see that happen. You've come to us with an alternate, a proposal based on planning principles that are laid out by the province, not laid out by us, giving you the opportunity, sir, and your representative to come forward and ask for a revision to your original plan. You're not doing something that's illegal, that's out of the question. You're doing something within the perspective of what the government of Ontario has laid out in the Planning Act to represent, all municipalities across our beautiful province. So from that point, I understand what you're saying as a business person. I've been in business myself, where if I didn't produce something, I didn't eat. So I know I know that if you're not getting the income in, you're not going to move forward, and that's what you're telling me. Our quandary as a council, of course, is that we're looking for affordable housing. The province says you need lots of affordable housing. Go and get it. You came forward and you're saying, well, it's not viable. I can't do it based on the numbers. You've spent obviously multi-millions of dollars in our community. I don't know whether you had local contractors. I imagine there were some. I believe that the funding in the future, there'll always be upkeep and maintenance, et cetera. We're not going to get that stuff from Toronto. We're going to buy it from the local distributors, the local people who live here. The government of Ontario, to you as a developer, has put you in a quandary. They're saying, go out and sell yourself, look for affordable housing, but we're really not going to help you with any funding unless, things change. So from what I'm hearing is you're looking at the plant, not viable anymore. My fear and concern is, what if you say, you know what, goodbye, we're gone? I mean, that could happen. As you said yourself, not viable, we'll sell it, we'll get out of here. You've spent multi-millions of dollars in a community. I think you've shown faith in our community, and the two ladies who were here previously to you said that we love being here, and I heard that from you. I think what has to happen is the province has to understand that in situations like this, you're putting this municipal government in a quandary by telling you that you're really not doing what you initially set out to do, but yet you can't afford to do it. So what is the option? The government should hear that. We had Amir here and he said, I'd love to do this, but I can't do it. But I still want to be part of the community. I guess our council will have to decide on that. And I want to say that, I as well know that we need affordable housing. You're telling me down the way, perhaps that'll happen. I mean, we've have developers in our community that have been here for 20 years and we're still waiting for development. So I can't say to you, geez, you've only been here 3 years and you're ready to go. So it's pretty hard for me to say, well, geez, how do I deny that? How can I deny that? How can I deny the taxpayers additional commercial tax coming into our community to offset their taxes, on their homes, which everybody says is too high. So by discouraging you and telling you to go away, we're telling our taxpayer, guess what? Because we've done this, your taxes may go up. So I appreciate you coming here. Council will have to decide, of course. And as Councillor Levisser said, he felt a little sandbag. But I don't think you came here initially with that in mind, that you're here to sandbag this municipality. You came here looking at the plan and saying, you know what, this is what we'd like to do. And down the road, you're saying, now, we just can't make this go based on COVID, based on cost, based on procurement. So thank you. Mr. Chair.
Are we ready for a motion? Oh, sorry. So somebody, yes, I'm sorry. Somebody else that would like to speak to this, please. I'm sorry.
It's all good. I'll send my husband, Donnie Lozon, after you. I'm Darlene Dumas. We own two of the properties adjacent to the land on the river. I really appreciate the comments of Councillor Levisser and Councillor Keel. I very much appreciate that. And as a business person, I understand your quandary. And as a land, we have rental properties also, so I understand that. But I too feel I've attended every meeting on the transformation of this property just because it's literally in our backyard. And I worry that the change from residential to commercial will significantly change the character of the neighborhood. I'm very concerned about that. And I've actually read through the bylaws from 2016-03. And if you look at the definition that's there of a residential versus a commercial, I appreciate that the property is on a commercial street, but if you look at the properties around it, whether it be the two homes that we own there, the old age home, the condominiums, the apartments, those are primarily residential. And if we're talking, short-term rental, as a landowner, I'm concerned, if you're in it as a residence, if it is a place where you live, there's a greater degree of ownership in that, and respect for the property, respect for the neighborhood, versus short-term rentals where, what does that mean? Is it going to be, people coming in regularly, perhaps destroying the environment of the beach? I don't know. Is it going to be perhaps changed in terms of a longer term residence for refugees who are going to be coming in and out of the community? Is it going to be an Airbnb mentality, which, we all know sort of the consequences of that. So, and then the whole affordable housing thing, I was very excited about that, not only from a social justice point of view, but the fact that our new neighbors were going to be people that were going to be there longer. And as I said, perhaps have a better respect for the property. And again, sort of reiterating what Mr. Leverser has said, I, again, having attended these meetings and followed these meetings, am now surprised to hear that on the, I call it the field because it's a field beside our house, we're looking at long-term maybe development there and again, an increase in the population type of thing. So I appreciate the time and the research that this council has done. And I appreciate you coming down also. But from our perspective, we very much like the idea of the residential versus the commercial use of this property. So again, I thank you. And we'll be following as close as I can what you decide in this process. So thank you.
Any questions from the committee? Okay, thank you. Thank you very much. Okay. So are we ready now for a motion?
Also move, Mr. Chair, that we accept the proposal as from the planning department and as presented by the individuals who attended here. Also move that we accept.
And there's a seconder, Ed, thank you.
All a second, sir.
Any further comments?
I'll ask for a recorded vote.
Yes, yes. Okay, we'll have a recorded vote.
Okay, so the request for a recorded vote has been made. The motion brought forth is that the zoning, excuse me, that the approval of the zoning bylaw amendment for application for 1127 Pembroke Street West go from a residential to commercial. That's the motion. I ask for a clear yay or nay in the recorded vote. Councillor Keel, we'll start with you.
Nay.
Councillor Giacono?
Yay.
Mr. Mantha?
Yay.
Mr. Vice Chair?
Nay.
And finally, Mr. Chair.
Yay.
Motion passes 3-2.
Through you, Mr.
Thank you.
Chair.
Yes.
So I'm sure everybody already knows this, but this committee will be making a recommendation to a public meeting of City Council. That meeting will be held on December 3rd at 6 p.m. And from that point on, a bylaw would be before council at the following council meeting.
Thank you very much. Okay, past decision update. Yes, could we have that, please, Owen?
Thank you, Mr. Chair. So two matters that were addressed at our last committee meeting. The first one regarding parking on Bronx Street. The second being a zoning bylaw amendment application for 9 Bennett Street. Both of these were before council in the form of bylaws on November 19th. Council did pass both bylaws. As it is not an application under the Planning Act, there is no appeal period for the Bronx Street parking matter. However, there is a 20-day appeal period for the 9 Bennett Street application, the final day of appeal being December 10th.
Question, Mr. Chairman.
Yes.
With respect to Bronx Street parking, when is that going to be implemented? Are signs going up soon?
Through you, maybe I could
Yes.
answer that one. So I've submitted the work request form for signage last week. And so I'm hoping that it's up fairly soon.
Thank you.
Okay. Our next meeting is scheduled at the moment for Monday, January the 27th. I'm wondering if we can maybe move that a little bit. Both Romy and I are maybe back then, but if we moved a day or so further, it would give us a little better, more mobility. Yes, no problem, no problem. What about here at,
Through you, Mr. Chairman, the Tuesday, January 28th works better for staff because we have until Wednesday at noon to get items ready for the public meeting council, which would be the first Tuesday in February. Because then if we waited till Thursday, January 30th, we wouldn't make that deadline. So if that works, Tuesday, January 28th.
Tuesday is great. It's okay here.
Yeah.
Okay. Good. So we'll move that then to Tuesday. Thank you.
In the event that the plane goes down or something.
Oh, God. Jeez.
And you could still have a quorum without the two of us, so you'll have to
Yeah.
decide who's going to chair.
Maybe we'll come to that.
All right.
Okay. Thank you. Motion to adjourn. Yes, Ian. Seconder. Meeting is adjourned. Thank you.